275 days, Nigeria will get another president that would pilot the affairs of the nation for the next 4 years. But the juggle for power from the different political parties and their candidates is on. Now, for many political analysts, Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State is the new bride, waiting to be wedded by the different political parties, which date is set for 23rd of February in 2023. That's the presidential election. Now, from the APC candidate to the PDP candidate and Labour Party candidate, alongside with the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, meeting in UK, who is going to be the groom to sweep Governor Wike off his feet. Welcome to Political Standpoint. Joining me to discuss all of this is a PDP chieftain, PS Adetokunbo. He joins me in our studio. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Let me start by asking, I want to get to the outcome of the meeting in just a minute, but when we speak to a lot of your party members, PDP, most of them never agree that there is a crisis within your party. I just want to ask you, what do you also agree that right now your party is in a bad place, especially as the campaign will start next month towards the 2023 elections?
When you say there's a crisis, rather the reason why most of our members say there's no crisis is because we really believe that the crisis is a problem which has got to a point of no return. That's when you have a crisis. That is the real meaning of crisis, unless you want to just be colloquial about it. So we don't have a crisis, we have problems. We have issues that we have to resolve. And those issues are going to be resolved with the ongoing discussions and negotiations, meetings. So we are sure that given the situation of the country, where everybody agrees, whether they are PDP or APC or non-aligned, that things need to improve. We need to rescue this country from the verge of collapse as it is, which APC has brought us to. So it's in the interest of the PDP, all of them, Wike, Atiku, all of us, to be sure that we don't have enough rancor to destroy the PDP chances of helping this country get out of the quagmire in which the APC has put it.
When you say that there is no crisis, I'm very sure you have followed Governor Wike, especially in the last 1 month. Let's even focus on the last 1 month where he has been inaugurating a lot of projects in his state. And then, it's almost like a fun fair. And you see the band there. He has said a lot of things and even sang a lot of songs in the process, almost, referring to political enemies. And then we've also had comments from Sule Lamido as well. So it shows you the picture of exactly what's going on in your party. Almost like Sule Lamido saying, look, the party is going to call Wike's bluff. It shows you where the party is. And I wonder why people still don't agree that there is a crisis within your party.
A crisis is an all-consuming problem. The crisis, or rather the problem, the issues with Governor Wike, which you refer to as a crisis, is not a crisis because it is not all-consuming within the PDP. Notice that it is only in Rivers where we have this type of situation. And when Governor Wike talks about enemies, he's talking about the problems he has in his own state. Within the state, there's opposition. Everybody has the opposition. In APC here in Lagos State, you have like 4 factions.
I don't think he was just talking about his people in his state.
That's where the real problem is for him, because what he's fighting for, by the way, at the national, is very legitimate. All of us agree, but it's the process, it's the way you come to solve the problem that we disagree on so far. You know, so. That Dr. Ayu should resign. Everybody knows that Dr. Ayu is going to have to leave that position.
I will get to that. I will get to that in just a moment.
So we don't have a crisis.
I will get to Ayu in a moment.
The problem we have is in Port Harcourt right now And it's not the whole
I would also, I'll keep
every
disagreeing
state.
with you, Dr. Pierce, that this is about Port Harcourt or just Rivers State. But let me bring in via Zoom, he's joining us from Benue State, the Special Assistant to Governor Tom on Strategic Investment and Knowledge Economy, Dave Ubole. Good to have you join us.
Thank you very much. It's always my pleasure to be with you on TVC.
Dave, let me start with you in terms of the outcome of that meeting. I know your principal, the Governor Samuel Otom, was part of the delegation that went with, or part of the supporters, if I may put it that way, that went with Governor Wike to the UK and attended several meetings with him. Wike himself confirmed that they did meet with the APC candidate. There is also the Labour Party candidate, the former president of the country, Olusegun Obasanjo, and then your party candidate as well, Atiku. But let me just start with that of Atiku. Can you talk to us about the outcome of that meeting?
Okay. First of all, I was present on ground on the 29th, 30th of May when the National Convention held in Abuja, and Atiku emerged the flag bearer of the party, with Wike coming second. And I would have naturally thought that, having set the pace for the ruling party, the machinery of our party was going to just hit the ground running without some internal, agitations and rancor. But so far, it is clear the blind can see and the deaf can hear that all is not well within the party, because 1, 2, 3 meetings, committees have been set up to try and bring resolution to, certain agitations on the part of the governor of Rivers State, who came second in that particular presidential primaries. So the meeting in London is one out of plenty meetings that have happened. They have met with the Governors Forum, they have met with the National Working Committee, and then there is a group of governors out there. It's not pictures that emerged and then we saw them smiling. There are a lot of undertones that are yet to be revealed. We watched keenly to hear them address the press and perhaps, unveil one or two things that was the resolutions or line of action reached in terms of healing the party and going whole into the election or into the campaigns from next month and subsequently into the election. But all that came out from the address of our Governor Samuel Otom and then Wike and Ikpeazu is that they are meeting with stakeholders and that party is not taking center stage. It is Nigeria that is taking center stage, and they are doing all they can to ensure that Nigeria that is on oxygen, Nigeria that is on drip now is salvaged from the socio-economic and political quagmire. But some issues are making rounds on the social media. They said you cannot dismiss some of those issues because there certainly is no smoke without fire.
But Dave, is there anything in particular that you can tell us? We know that you are back in the country. You work with Governor Samuel Otom. Is there anything that you can tell us in particular that was said in that meeting? Because we do have some reports, but we just want to confirm if what we have is true.
Before you cut me. I was going to that before you cut me short.
All right, go ahead, please.
Okay. I was saying that there are certain rumors making round, and you cannot totally dismiss them because certainly there is no smoke without, fire. It is clear that Wike's agitation has shifted from substituting Okoa as vice president of Nigeria into certain, agreements and deals that will perhaps favor his camp. Somebody who has come second in a keenly contested presidential primaries like that is a factor to be reckoned with. And I believe that he shouldn't be treated like a pushover. Before now, he has been nicknamed bull in a china shop that should be tamed, or else the fortunes of the party may be ruined by his utterances and by his actions. It's a clear sign that somebody has been aggrieved, and as it is now, beyond settlement, there are certain deals that have to be brokered to ensure that his interest is captured within the new framework of the party and also in the new government that will set up should PDP win in 2023. The social media is carrying some of the demands, like the resignation of the national chairman, an agreement to one term so that power can shift to the south for whoever wins, whether it is Atiku or Tinubu, and permission to be able to bring in one or two people from within their camp who also form like a unity government, so as to forestall the northern domination of the National Working Committee, and so on. So those are the demands that are making rounds on the social media. It has not been confirmed by them yet, but I want to say that there is no smoke without fire. And if those things are true, then we can take them as some of the resolutions reached between those meetings.
All right, thank you so much, Dave. But let me bring the conversation back to Dr. Pierce. Do you have any idea? You have a stake within your party. You are a chieftain in Lagos. You've run for office. I think it was the Senate. You ran for. You are also the chairman of Reset Lagos PDP, convener of Reset Lagos PDP. So you have I say that to say you have a stake, and perhaps you would have gotten information as well. So what can you tell us about the outcome of that meeting?
I read an article in the Vanguard newspaper where they mentioned most of the things that my colleague there said. These negotiations are all around issues of reorganizing the party for equity between the North and the South, positions of ministerial, the National Assembly presidency, and so on and so forth. But what was reported that there's been a resolution, that there's been an agreement to those things. I was not sure, so I called the people I know at the national of the party, and what they told me is that negotiations are still ongoing. Discussions are still ongoing.
Which means that no agreement has been reached at this moment.
But you see, the fact that they have met and they came out of the meeting not swinging at each other, we know that we're making progress. And I believe, sincerely, from the onset, that this whole issue with Governor Wike will be resolved, because Wike is a major stakeholder in the party. We cannot lose River State. If PDP loses River State, it will be a disgrace on Governor Wike himself. That means he has lost his state. And he has said publicly he's not going to APC or anywhere else. He's a founder of the party. He's going to stay in the party. Therefore, with all that in mind, and of course knowing that Atiku himself cannot afford to lose River State, we are going to work out a resolution. They're working on it.
Dr. Pierce, before I take this conversation, I just want, because I'm going to ask both of you this question. What is your, because you talk about Wike has said he's not leaving the party, but Wike also said when he returned that consultations are still ongoing. And he wasn't just talking about consultations with your presidential candidate, he was talking about consultations with all other presidential candidates, because he did admit and confirm that he met with all of them. And so when he says consultations are ongoing, it does seem as though he has not made up his mind yet who he's going to work with. And that also leaves open the chances that Wike might stay in your party but not work for your party. Are you more concerned about Wike leaving your party, that's the PDP, or staying within your party and not working for your party?
Personally, I'm not concerned about Governor Wike at all. Governor Wike is a stakeholder, a major stakeholder in the PDP. River State does not belong to one man. Governor Wike is going to be out of office in a few months. He has to look at his legacy, what he's going to leave behind. Talking to the governor, the candidate of the APC, and the presidential candidate of other parties does not mean anything. These are leaders who have been around for a long time. They know each other. They're talking about, if you read what Wike said about the meeting, he said their meeting is not about PDP problem. Their meeting is about, that's why he's meeting with all of these presidential candidates. with Obasanjo there, Obasanjo is not interested in one party or the other. What he's interested in is the outcome of this election, so that there be no rancor at the end of it within this candidate. That's what this is about now. As he said, my friend from Abuja, my colleague there.
Benue State.
That,
Benue State.
Yeah, Ben, that, you know, the focus is shifting. At one time, the media was carrying rumors that Wike wanted to be vice president. And I said, look, we've done that deal. It's over. That's not his concern. His concern is where the party is. The North, he said, has power. It's lopsided in the party, too much in favor of North, that we need to bridge that gap. They're working on it. It's going to take some time. You know, for instance...
Are they working on it? I will get to that with you, because that's another issue. And from the reports we get, we have gotten so far, that's one of the demands being made by the Wike faction, if I may call it that. But let me take the conversation back to Dave Obule. Dave, are you concerned, because the same question that I asked Dr. Pierce, are you more concerned about Wike leaving your party and staying in your party and then working against your party? And then how do you read all of these consultations that Wike has been making with the other presidential candidates?
First of all, I need to point it clearly that whatever is being rumored on the social media and in the papers today were proposals. And there is a difference between proposals and resolutions. So when proposals are being put forth by a party, and when you use faction, if you say camp, it is better than you use faction. Faction is indicative that there is a division within. So if you say camp, you are talking about interest groups within. So let's define that clearly. There are no factions within PDP, only camps. So now, back to the matter, it is proposals that have been made already. And when those proposals have been assented to, it becomes an agreement or a resolution. So the reason they say consultations are still going on is that I don't expect, if I was in Atiku's shoe, I was in Obi's shoe, I was in Tinubu's shoe, having met and received all of these proposals, I wouldn't assent to it immediately and enter into an agreement. Because as a presidential candidate, you represent the interest of a whole lot of people, and you shouldn't be making unilateral decisions without due consultations. So let's hold it that these proposals have been presented or made. It is after due consultations now, maybe horse trading, shifting of grounds, that a final resolution can be reached. As for me, I'm interested in Wike staying in the party and working for the party also when all of these little sores and bruises have been healed. Because it is important that it's not that you have the voice of Jacob and then you have the skin of Esau. No, it's important to in the interest of integrity, when you commit to a thing, you commit wholly. Don't be speaking one thing in the front side and on the back side, though it's a characteristic of politics. But I believe that Wike is the man who has demonstrated some measure of forthrightness or correctness to be able to abide by his words in staying with the party and also working for the party and not working against the party from within. So let's see it from that. It is, like I pointed earlier, it is important that his interest is captured in the new order of things and also in the forthcoming government. Everybody, life is a matter of interest. When interest is threatened or when somebody is seeking interest, those are the basic reasons for conflict. When my interest is threatened and I am defending it, you call it a conflict. Or when I want interest and I'm going for it, because the interest I'm going for is in the custody of another person. That's where what we call conflict. So these are internal issues that I believe strongly will be resolved, and then the party will go in whole into the campaigns from next month.
Dave, points taken, the Wike camp, it will be referred to as that going forward. But let me ask you, because you also said that some of the reports on social media can be taken. And I want to, one of those reports we're getting on social media is the fact that the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, is prevailing on Wike to support the candidacy of Peter Obi of the Labour Party, and also bearing in mind that both men have sufficient history together. And my question again, what if Wike decides, now he hasn't made any decision yet, if he has, he would have said so, but what if he decides to then work, stay in your party, but work for the Labour Party candidate?
You see, when elders like Obasanjo attend a meeting, it is important not to introspect his motives or to go on the ride of speculation as to what he's saying. If Obasanjo he fears no man at this age. He is a respected elder, he is a courageous person, and he's also vocal. If he cannot reach you by words, he will write letters. He's very skilled at that. So if Obasanjo has anything in mind, Obasanjo will speak it. So it will not be wisdom to introspect an elder and begin to say, okay, he is prevailing on Wike to support Peter Obi. Those are all speculations. So I think I will not go further since I have dismissed it as a speculation.
Anyway, well, in politics, nothing stays hidden for too long. I'm very sure in a matter of weeks, as the campaign starts, some of these issues will come to the fore. But let's now move to the demands or some of the reports we're getting in terms of the demands that Wike is making. I think it's just one major one, which is the fact that the national chairman, Asiwaju, should step down, bearing in mind that the person who is there now, the presidential candidate, is also from the north. And he also said that Asiwaju, from what reports we're getting, not confirmed, again, reports we're getting, is he might have referred to him as a divisive figure who has not been able to put the party together since the presidential primaries took place. What's your thought on Asiwaju staying on as the national chairman of your party?
Well, this is one of the issues that they're still talking about. I feel that based on where we are now, a few months to the midterm Congress, that Ayu should stay on, and then at the midterm Congress, the positions will be switched. That is the point in which I feel that legally, according to our constitution, Ayu can then step down. If Ayu steps down now, by the way, Atiku made the point, and I also saw that before I read Atiku's position. According to the PDP constitution, if a national chairman is forced out of office, the person that will take over is going to be the national deputy chairman from his zone. In this case now, it will be the northern vice national chairman. That's according to the Constitution. So therefore, these are the reasons why these negotiations are taking place, and we all have to be very careful how we navigate this situation. Do you get my point? So that's one of the issues.
You mentioned the issue of the convention. I had to check again, and just to take that report. From that report, Atiku did state this point, but Wike interjected and then said that, also mentioned the fact that the former national chairman, Okwesi Leze had resigned from the position in 2011 following the election of President Goodluck Jonathan, and that the deputy national chairman from his region was overlooked in filling that vacancy. So which means that there's precedence that when the national chairman did step down, the deputy chairman was overlooked, and so it doesn't have to follow, and that's the point I'm making.
Well, you can make that point. We can also make the point that the Constitution needs to be followed. So the point is, look, there has to be discussions around this, and eventually it will be settled. Because all we are saying, what I feel, and I think that is a position that the Atiku a group has been insisting on, that, look, at the right time, Ayu will step down. And Wike, on the other hand, is insisting that it should be now. So since it is not a question of if or when, it's just a question of when, not that it will not step down, I think the problem is not a crisis. A problem is not insolvable. And I think that very soon, after that last meeting in London, I think we're going to see resolutions coming out. We're going to see positions coming out. They're going to have negotiations. See, we cannot afford to lose this election. Wike cannot afford to lose River State, and Atiku cannot afford it either. So we're going to solve this problem. I think the media is getting a lot of things wrong.
To Dave Ogbile, and I'll come back to you because you said that the Wike cannot afford to lose River State. Dave, I want to ask you first of all about the national chairman, and then I will talk about River State and Wike. What's your thought on the national chairman staying on? Because we understand that that's one of the demands that Wike is making. That's Iyochi. What's your thought on the national chairman? Do you think that he should step down or that he should stay on? Bearing in mind that, look, we're just a few months away from the presidential election.
On the resignation of the national chairman, it's important to note that constitutions or laws are made so that when events or eventualities, people don't depend on emotion to make decisions. You fall back to laws or constitutions that are laid down principles that guides the operations of every organization. So the People's Democratic Party has a constitution, and I believe that having made those proposals, I get back to that word, proposals were made, and it is now left for the party's hierarchy or leadership to look into it vis-a-vis the current situation on ground and see the decisions that will be taken. But I will say, it is not for our emotions to make such decisions now. It is for the constitution on ground to determine what should be done. And then there are precedences on ground also, like you have stated earlier. So precedences also help to reinforce the position of a law or a constitution. So I will not say stay or go. Let the constitution of the party determine that.
All right, you're watching Political Standpoint. We'll be speaking with the Special Assistant to the Benue State Governor on Strategic Investment and Knowledge Economy, Dave Ogbile. He joins us via Zoom from Benue State. We also have a PDP chieftain and the convener of Reset PDP Lagos, Dr. Pierce Adetokunbo. Thanks for staying with us. This is Political Standpoint. We've been talking about the issues within the PDP as it relates to the grievances of Governor Wike and the reconciliation meeting held between Governor Wike and former Vice President Atiku in the UK. We have in the studio with us Dr. Adetokunbo Pierce, and also with us via Zoom is Dave Ogbile. But let me stay with you in the studio, Dr. Pierce. I want to get into your party policy document, which has been released by your presidential candidate in just a moment. But let me ask you, because you've not been able to form your campaign council, and how long is your party going to wait? Are you going to wait until this issue is resolved? Because we understand that your presidential candidate Atiku has a role for Wike in that council, probably to head it. But if his body language is still that of unresolved wranglings, how long will your party wait to form that council?
Only the presidential candidate himself can determine that, I think, and his advisors, close advisors. But the issue will be resolved. That's one of the reasons why it has to be resolved very soon. I'm sure that there's a working document in place already that he will just confirm once the time is right. But whatever deadline we need to meet is going to be met. The worst case, nothing's going to happen to PDP in this election. We cannot lose River State. River State is solidly PDP. Worst case scenario.
Is it not possible to lose? Is it not possible for Wike to not work for the victory of, for example, an Atiku, but go ahead to win his state?
Atiku will win the votes in River State no matter what happens, because River State is solidly PDP. All the senators, senatorial candidates in River State are PDP senators that have already got their candidacy. All the House of Reps members have got the candidacy. All the assembly, PDP, they are going to vote solidly for their presidential candidate. The worst case scenario, if there's wrangling in Rivers State PDP, is that instead of Atiku getting 75% of the vote, as we think he should, it will reduce to 60% of the votes. He's going to win massively in Rivers State. That's not the issue now that we are under discussion. What's under discussion is just to unify the party and avoid this climate of doubt about where we're going. We want to go into the election as a family united. And the campaign council, I'm sure, is going to be announced very soon, because the issues being discussed are getting close to a conclusion. And that's where I think we are now.
But let me bring in Dave. Dave, let's talk about the issues around unity, because Dr. Pierce talked about unifying the party. But one of the things we've heard about from all of the candidates, including yours, is the fact that they want to unify the country, especially because of where we are today. But when you also look at the issues around, there's another wrangling within your party, which is the fact that whether it's the National Working Committee or whether it is the BOT, that there seem to be a lot of, most of these people who are occupying these positions are from a particular region of the country, and so there should be a reshuffle. Can you say you want to unify the country if equity isn't, if the party isn't seen to be working in equity? Dave, we cannot hear you. I think you have to unmute yourself.
I am unmuted here. Maybe you need to unmute me from there.
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. So I was saying earlier that you were raising a concern or a question with my colleague there, Mr. Pierce, that I would like to just say something. This constant fear that Wike is going to stay in the party but maybe work for another presidential candidate is something that you need to be at peace or rest your mind. Be rest assured that if Wike is within the party, he is going to work in the interest of the party. These are the reasons. Let me use a subset of a state, for instance, where you have the governor of the state as a member of one party, and then a major bulk of, let's say 75% of his House of Assembly members are in the opposition party. You know, there is no safety for that governor. There is no safety for him. They can wake up any day, just, by whims or caprices. Just a few of them can stay in one room and impeach the governor. It's same too with the presidential aspect. If the senators from Rivers State are going to be PDP, House of Reps members are going to be PDP, House of Assembly members are going to be PDP, it will be safer to vote in a PDP president rather than to vote in a Labour Party president or an APC president, and then all of the people a host of the people in the National Assembly are in the opposition party who is against him. It does not make for political wisdom at all. So you don't set a trap for somebody. So if Obi is given such a proposal that, okay, we'll deliver our states for PDP, but we'll vote you for presidency, it means the senators that will be coming from each of these states will be PDP. And then he is going to be a Labour Party person standing alone there. So he shouldn't be even taking such a proposal because it's a political calculation. It's a trap that he shouldn't be falling into. So if you are nursing such a concern, I want your heart to be addressed that PDP is good.
Dave, I have no concern at all. My heart is at rest. I'm not a member of your party. Whatever Wike does has nothing to do with me. I am not a member of your party or any other party, as it were. I was just asking if that's a concern for you and other members of your party. But absolutely, you said it is not a concern. So that's fine.
We are on air now. I am not addressing your fears only. I'm addressing the majority or the masses that are watching right now. So my answer is not primarily directed at you. So you simply start it up, and it's important for the millions of Nigerians who watch TVC, because TVC is a ranking station, and then millions watch it. So it's important to also clear their minds. So when I make a first reference to you, tactically, I'm referring to the millions.
So I asked you a question about I asked you a question about the equity. If your party is saying, look, you want to unify Nigeria, that's one of your mantra. We're hearing from your party and other parties as well. And then there is a talk about the equity in the leadership of your party, whether at the level of the BOT or the National Working Committee. How then do you resolve that? Or if you don't resolve that, how then do you say you want to unify the country when equity is also an issue in the country at the moment?
Thank you very much. Post-primary or post-presidential primaries, PDP is standing at, on a new threshold right now, where a lot of rejigging needs to be done and is being done within the party system. Because the matter of equity in terms of regional representation in the hierarchy of the party is something that is very, very important. Basically because it will give other parts of this country a sense of belonging within the party when they see the appointment represented up there. So the matter of rejigging, it covers the issue of the equity in terms of the appointments of people who are in the National Working Committee. So pre-national primaries, it may be in a certain way, lopsided, but post now, that rejigging is very, very important because anybody who serves as a member of the National Working Committee is the voice of his own region in the party. So when certain people don't see their own voice or their own faces within the region, they will begin to think that they've been sidelined and their voices do not matter in the party. So the party is working to carry everybody along so that all regions will feel a sense of belonging. And I think no sacrifice of one person or the other in the interest of equity of the party is too much to make. And the party is willing to make that sacrifice at this point in time.
All right, Dr. Pierce, let's now talk about the policy document in terms of the manifesto that has been released by your candidate, and their issues around power, generating power for the country, stable power supply for the country. There is security. He talked about the economy, but I want to start with security because where we are today, security and the economy looks like the two major issues. Not that the other issues are not
in every government
are not important. Absolutely, in every government. What's your party's direction in terms of fixing the security situation we're facing in the country today?
First and foremost, let me say this about this political campaign of candidates and parties. There's a difference between what the party says and what the candidate says. Sometimes the two go together, sometimes they diverge. When APC was campaigning in 2015, Buhari never, in fact, he never said he was for restructuring. But the party said they had restructuring in their manifesto, in their constitution. So there's a major problem. There was a problem there. That's why you never had restructuring as a major concern for the administration. What we have now with Atiku is that he is actually voicing the interest of the party. So the party...
So there is a harmonization of both manifestos,
yes,
candidates and party.
Exactly. And that is restructuring the Nigerian Federation. For instance, restructuring will address the issue of, you said, security first. Because when you devolve power to the states, which is a major aspect of this change we're talking about, which we call regeneration, restructuring, reorganization, resetting. Now, what that means is that what happened in Benue State, where the National Assembly propagated a law that there should be no open grazing, and they didn't have the force, the police force, to enforce the law, will no longer be the case because the state would have its own security elements. That is part of the way that security will be much improved in the country. Once you restructure the system, as it is now, it is only the federal government only the president, that actually can secure any state, as happened in Benue, where the president's people, the Inspector General of Police, did not listen to the law that was promulgated by the assembly of the state, because the state had to ask for national support from the president, who may have a different agenda from what the state has. That will not happen now if we restructure the security system, whereby the states have their own security, levels of security. Local government, state, even community, 3 levels. That is what happens in a real federation. That is one issue of security. Let me tell you something about security too, which is very important. I was just informed recently how we could resolve the issue of oil theft in Nigeria. I said to somebody, I said, look, these governors, they are responsible. They should hold the bandits who are stealing our oil, 400,000 barrels a day. They're crippling the economy. Hold them responsible. Then a friend of mine told me, he said, look, the governors don't have any power to do that, because it is federal government people that are so powerful that they can do bunkering, and there's nothing the governor can do. Now, if you reorganize the system in such a way that the governor is truly the chief security officer of his state, now it's only in name. Because you cannot secure, Autumn will tell you, you cannot secure your state as it is now, whereby the federal government controls the security, the police, the army, the Air Force, everything. Police especially is what you need, not so much the army. Army is for external security. Internal security, you need to have different levels of police.
So basically, you're going to restructure security. Dave, I heard Dr. Pierce when he said that there is some sort of harmonization in terms of manifesto of the party and that of the presidential candidate. But let's not also forget that interest also comes into play once one is in office. And just generally, personal interest always comes into play. Case in point, I remember, I think it was it was Sokoto, I think it is, where Deborah was killed over blasphemy. And then your presidential candidate tweeted and then deleted that tweet. And that did not go down well with a lot of Nigerians in terms of what his posture might be going forward when this kind of issues arise, if he would use, if religion and ethnicity would take center stage in terms of how he reacts to some of these issues. And I want you to speak to that.
Basically, when he was alleged to have made that tweet and taken it down, there was a follow-up tweet too, where he debunked the assertion that the first tweet was from him. And he said any tweet that does not carry his initials AA is not from him. I think we should give him the benefit of the doubt that that first one that was deleted was not from him. But going forward, if this nation will survive, it has to be an all for one and one for all, in the sense that one person should be able to feel the love of all wherever the person is found. We should have Nigeria where national interest is taking center stage, not the subsets of ethnicity and religion. I want to agree with you that these are the monsters that are ravaging, this nation, trying to bring Africa's giant down to her knees. The monster of religion, the monster of region, and then the monster of ethnicity. When I talk about religion, this dichotomy, this strong, sharp, delicate balance that Christianity is maintaining with Islam in this country is something that we will need somebody who will ameliorate and create a common ground where both of us can be able to see ourselves as Nigerians, regardless of the religious beliefs or affiliations we have. And it boils down basically to bigger issues than what we're discussing now. We have to come down to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria itself. We seem to be operating a dual constitution here, a dual legal system also within the Constitution, where the Constitution basically is not supreme in the sense that there are subsets of the Constitution that subscribe or allow for another religion, or religious belief or religious legal system like the Sharia, to be able to operate and then some set of people bear allegiance to that as against, the Constitution itself. So it borders on matters of constitutional amendment, so that regardless of the religious, belief, we'll be able to have freedom of worship, because all the interests of the religions are captured within our Constitution, not a lopsided one where you have about 150 mentions of the word Sharia, Grand Qadi in the Nigerian Constitution, and there is no mention of any issue that got to do with Christianity or African traditional religion that other group or subset of Nigerians subscribe to. Those are constitutional amendment matters. But I think our religious clerics and our political leaders have a long way to go as far as solving this issue, of a religious bigotry, where, they decide what is blasphemy, and they decide the punishment for blasphemy, and they decide who has committed blasphemy. Those are grievous issues that we must settle if we will go forward as one entity in Nigeria.
And Dave, you have put this really nicely, and that's what people were hoping that your candidate would put forward. The tweet that was deleted, where he said that tweet did not come from him, was even a tweet that condemned the act. The one he eventually said was from him did not condemn the act. So, and that's where Nigerians are wondering, will he have the boldness? Because where we are now, people say we need a leader who has the boldness, who has the tenacity, and who has the who can go beyond the because we are so used to the word cabal in the country, who can look the cabal in the eye and say this is what is right for Nigerians. But in that particular act, that he has not demonstrated that he will be able to deal decisively with security issues without fear and favor. But let me allow Dr. Pierce react to that.
Look, let me say this. This is the magic of restructuring. Restructuring, as we put it, devolution of powers to the states, diversification of the economy, decentralization of government will solve most of these problems. Let me give you an example. Sharia should be made legal by the federal government, by the Supreme Court. Now, the way it works in a federation is this. It's legal. Christianity is legal. Traditional religion is legal. When you now have devolution of powers in your states, in your state, you now decide in your state assembly which one you want to adopt, make legal. You see my point?
Dr. Pierce, you're speaking about the ideal situation.
No.
Just a minute.
You have to change the Constitution.
Absolutely, but my question is
to
whether...
reflect that.
And that's right.
Yes.
My question really is whether your candidate has the boldness that Nigeria needs today to be able to say, yes, this is the direction that we should go in. And irrespective of how I feel or my interest in this issue, I think this is where we should go, and we should go in this direction. Irrespective of whose horse has been got.
I will address that issue, but I want to show you the bigger picture, how we can resolve our problem in Nigeria. One is through the constitutional amendment, which will allow the states to decide on these issues. I'm a Christian, but it really pains me when I go. Kano was my favorite city when I was younger. I did my first degree there, worked there for about 5 years. I'm telling you, you have criminalized our people in Nigeria with this terrible constitution. Allow people who want to be Christian to be Christian. Don't set Christian against Muslim as we have done now with our constitution. If you have that constitution in place, it doesn't matter what the president wants to do. That's the law. People can decide to be there. So a Muslim president like Buhari will now say, you cannot now say he will be supporting one religion against the other. It's not going to happen. You must allow the states to decide on these things. Two, when you talk about the personal issue of the individual character of Atiku and this issue of religion, look, in every situation, if you want to know what a man is going to do in politics, all you have to do is go to his background, research his life, his record, both in public and in private. Atiku is not a religious bigot. You know why I knew, by the way, I can tell you this, that in 2015, I was on a TV station like this. And I said, they were telling me, oh, I was talking on behalf of Jonathan. Jonathan is bad. This administration is rubbish. I said, let me tell you something. Jonathan may be bad, but Buhari will be worse. Buhari is going to cripple this country. He said, how do I know? I said, the religion. I said, Buhari, for himself, declared in about 2011, 2012, that war against Boko Haram is war against the North. That already gave me an indication where he stands on this issue. He cannot control security. He is not going to be hard on Boko Haram. When Boko Haram was going into negotiation, to meetings with the federal government,
but one would say, even at that Boko Haram has been decimated to an extent.
Listen. Boko Haram is still very much with us. They have mastered the art of
I didn't say they are gone completely.
No, they've tried. It's not enough. One death through that kind of terrorism is not enough. It's not acceptable. Now, when you have a man who is going to represent Boko Haram in a meeting, not that he agreed to do it, but he was recommended. What did they see? So therefore, look, please let me talk.
I just have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to give you 30 seconds to wrap up so I can go to economy.
So now you have an Atiku. All around him, Christians, Muslims, his wife, Christian, Muslim. He is not a religious bigot. Therefore, his background already tells you what he will do. Most importantly, he has said he is going to do this constitutional review. It's going to be a major issue so that we can have a restructured country. Once you do that, a lot of these problems will be solved.
All right. Let me take the conversation to Dave. Dave, he was the former vice president of the country, which means that he was in charge of the economy. He's running for presidency. Talk to us about, and at a time where not just in Nigeria, but economies around the world has been battered by the war between Russia and Ukraine. There is the COVID-19 pandemic as well, and just a whole number of issues, and particularly the debt in Nigeria. But talk to us about the antecedents of your candidate, presidential candidate, in terms of his ability to fix economic crisis.
Thank you very much. If you want to hire somebody to bake 1,000 cakes for you, you have to look at his antecedents if he has baked one successfully. The time Atiku was vice president, under President Obasanjo and in charge of the economy, you have the record of how the economy of Nigeria fared. That was pre-Jonathan. And as it is now, what was called corruption in terms of Obasanjo and Jonathan, all of Nigeria is now saying, bring back that corruption. Because we like the corruption that a liter of fuel was 65 naira. We like the corruption that a liter of fuel became 97 naira. At least we like that corruption better than the one that a liter of fuel now is 190 naira. So you are talking about the external factors like COVID-19 and the war between Russia and Ukraine, battering our economy. Yes, those are external factors that every country needs to adjust to, because a huge percentage of the wheat supply that we get here comes from this war-torn region of Russia, Ukraine. And bread is a staple here, cakes are staples here, and so on. Our fertilizers that we use in terms of agrarian culture, agriculture here, a host of them come from that area. So those are external factors. But I want to point you to the fact that in the whole of this, from February 25th, when the first attack was launched in Ukraine, to date, the Russian ruble has not gone down in terms of value. Rather, it keeps appreciating in value. The reason is that Russia is able to create a closed economy, and then they are not an import-dependent nation.
All right.
Rather, they try in the midst of this still export. Nigeria is still waiting for wheat from those war-torn areas. So that gives us that leaves us with a lesson. We have enough within here.
Dave,
oil producing nation.
I'm hearing in my ears that I have to wrap because of time. I just
Okay,
really
let me
wish
wrap up.
because you could speak
Okay, let me just
on
wrap
that.
up.
But I'm going to have you again. You know that, I'm going to have you again over and over again as much as well as Dr. Pierce to talk about your party and your candidate. Thank you so much for talking to us. The Special Assistant to Benue State Governor Samuel Otom on strategic investment and knowledge economy. You joined us via Zoom from Benue State. And also with us in the studio, a PDP chieftain and the convener of Reset Lagos PDP, Dr. Pierce Adetokunbo. Thank you so much for talking to us, gentlemen.